Hey guys, it's Simon here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're doing another comic book review. Today we're looking at Strangers in Paradise, Volume 1. This is written by Terry Moore. I bought this a few weeks ago, I think, through a Humble Bundle. So Terry Moore and his publisher, which is his own kind of publishing company called Abstract Studio Comics, had relaunched an old Humble Bundle from a few years ago and offered it again. And I think it was $20 or maybe it was 18, I can't remember, for basically everything that Terry Moore has written. So it had all of Strangers in Paradise 25, it had Echo, Motor Girl, it had, there's another one, what was it called? I don't know, it had some art books as well. It basically had everything that Terry Moore has ever published properly, right? In like to sell to people. And I picked it up. I was very curious about it. I really like his cartooning style, the way that he draws, and the fact that his comic books are in black and white. I thought it was pretty interesting. So I picked them up. I read the first one the last month because I thought it was related to romance and stuff, and it is kind of. So there is that. So demographic-wise, this is an adult title. Genre-wise, this is a slice of life, drama, and comedy. And there's definitely romance to it. Most of the kind of slice of life tension is around romantic tension. And this almost feels like Friends, or maybe something like How I Met Your Mother, where you have like a core cast of characters, you have these other ones that surround them, and then the surrounding characters are the ones that we have tension with, right? And most of the tension between the characters is part of their normal interactions, right? And it really felt almost like a sitcom, and it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with that. It's something that I've not really seen much of in the kind of Western side of comic books. I've seen it quite a lot in like Japanese stuff, right? There's plenty of slice of life manga that basically feels like a sitcom, although most of them are structured around high school, so they don't really feel the same, but there are some that do. And so it was nice to see something like that in this case, right? It does not have an adaptation, although like I said, since this is kind of a sitcom type thing, it would be very easy to adapt it into like a live action show. It would be relatively easy, I think, except for certain parts. But I think that maybe the issue would be that it's a bit too zany for like a normal television show, right? Because there's some stuff that happens here that's kind of out of left field and it's kind of odd. Although with the way in which entertainment goes now, it might still be possible, right? But it'd be really fun. So ratings wise, I gave this a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's nearly perfect. I really enjoyed it, but there was just one little detail at the end that I didn't quite like, right? So now we'll get to that in a moment. So the premise here is that there's two young women that live together, and one of them struggles with dealing with sleazy men, and the other one deals with her unrequited love to her friend, the other person that she lives with, right? And so these two women are Francine, who is the woman that struggles with men, and the other one is Kachu, or Kachu, I don't know how to say her name, who is the one that's dealing with the unrequited love that she has for Francine, right? And basically we just see their life through their eyes and through different silly situations that they find themselves in. And I really loved reading this. It was really, really enjoyable. It was nice and easy. It was just the right amount of funny and zany and ridiculous. And I really, really liked it. So plotline wise, it opens with Francine. She's embarrassed at the end of high school, it seems like, where she flashes her audience at like a school play. And then we flash forward 10 years. I'm not really sure what the point of that first scene was, in the sense that, like, I get that it's a fun way to introduce the character, but it doesn't seem all that relevant to the rest of the story. So we'll come back to that in a bit. But we flash forward 10 years. Francine is pressured to have sex by her boyfriend, who has been dating her for over a year at this point, or nearly a year at this point, and she's managed to kind of stop him from sleeping with her yet, because she wants to test him. She wants to know that he really cares about her. And as this is happening, Kachu wakes up. She shoots her alarm clock with a gun, kind of casually. This seems very like Southern, but it's kind of crazy. It's very zany, but it's pretty fun. And then all three characters are introduced through their interaction there. We get to learn who Freddy is, we get to learn who Francine is, and who Kachu are, right? And it's pretty pretty enjoyable. I think that this was pretty well done. It's kind of funny that there's two different introductory scenes, but one of them is to introduce the type of situations, and the other one is to introduce our characters, I guess. So that's kind of what the point of there is, right? And so after the characters are introduced, we have Francine and Freddie fighting about the fact that, you know, she hasn't put out, basically. And he gets upset. She also is upset. She tries to chase after him, and it turns out that she was just waiting for that first year mark, which is basically tomorrow, essentially. And now that he's angry and he's left, she is really upset and sad about that. And Kachu wants to make a move at this point. She thinks that it's probably the right time. She starts by making jokes. She then tries to kind of kiss Francine and stuff like that. And eventually Francine is like, no, I don't want that. Please stop, Kachu, right? And we see that Kachu is pretty upset about this, but it is what it is, right? We move on to a different scene. We see Kachu at kind of like a museum of sorts. She's looking at this sculpture, and this is when we get introduced to this character, David. And David seems to like Kachu, but she very clearly tells him, hey, I'm only into women. Sorry, man. But he's still there for her, and he becomes her friend throughout this book. And then we see Francine show up to Freddie's workplace, and she catches him cheating. And the artwork here is phenomenal. The way that Terry Moore draws these beautiful women and draws these funny looking guys, and just kind of makes it so that it's ridiculous that this guy has so much pull, but he's still liked by the people that he's with. It's pretty interesting. And obviously Francine is clearly betrayed by Freddie, and she goes crazy. She starts stripping in his office and then into the park, and eventually she's brought home. She's hurt, and she kind of goes into a coma for a few days. And this is when Kachu gets angry as hell. She goes out for revenge. It turns out she has some sort of military background or something, and Freddie is caught with another woman by Kachu, and he's strung up. She makes him think that she cut off his dick, and he's left there outside. And this is kind of the comeuppance that Freddie deals with because of being impatient or being a cheater. But then it turns out that Freddie obviously presses charges against Kachu, and she's thrown in jail. While she's there, we get her background hinted at. Apparently she seems to be some sort of secret agent or military or something like that. And eventually Francine does wake up. She gets caught up to kind of the current situation by David. And then they go to Freddie and they force him to drop the charges via blackmail, which they acquired by having Francine and the woman that used to be his secretary go in there together and try to get information out of him. And they manage to succeed. And this is how he gets blackmailed. And then the team goes home and everyone is sort of happy. And overall, this is a pretty charming story. It was pretty fun. But I did have two issues. One, the opening scene, although it's fun and interesting, is not really a great way to introduce the characters, in my opinion. I think that it almost feels unnecessary. And the reason it feels unnecessary is because it doesn't seem to tie into the rest of the story at all, except for the fact that the place she's in is called Strangers in Paradise, or something like that, or they mention Strangers in Paradise in that opening scene, and that's the name of the book. I'm not sure that that's meaningful enough. And it's not like this is the first time that Francine and Kachu meet or anything. I think it's more like it was just there to catch the audience's attention. And that might have been very necessary back in the day, but nowadays it's not really important. And I think that the only reason why it's still there is because people want to experience the story the way that it was initially written, right? But like with success of being part of Strangers in Paradise now, I feel like this first scene just ends up being very unnecessary. And then the last thing is that Kachu seems like not really a normal person, but not necessarily like a very highly qualified person either. And so her suddenly becoming like a secret agent or having a military background kind of out of nowhere is like, on one hand, understandable, because when else would you have explained this in this comic book, since this is the first time that it's relevant? But at the same time, a bit too over the top. I feel like there could have been a bit more development in Kachu's personality or her interests or something like that to really show you, hey, this woman has this sort of ability, right? In some way. And it just felt like it really came out of nowhere because it was necessary for the situation. It was just a way to get Kachu to not really have problems while in jail. And it was kind of weird, but I get it. It's fine. I'm going to continue reading this because there's really, like, nothing about this was, like, so bad that it makes me stop reading. I'm very excited to read more of it. I really love these characters. But those 2 plot points kind of felt like a bit looser than the rest of the story. The rest of the story feels very tight and well done, and so that kind of felt kind of off, right? In terms of characters, we have 4 of them. We have Francine, Kachu, David, and Freddy. Francine is a brunette. She's in nice shape, but not necessarily like super trim. She's kind of your normal girl next door type character. We have Kachu, who's a bit thinner, a bit more athletic, and she's blonde, and she kind of has that like rough, like don't mess with me kind of attitude. And then David is an Asian American kind of guy, and he is kind of pretty down to earth, kind of like a tortured artist type character. And Freddy, of course, is a kind of fugly, kind of cute, but kind of not handsome kind of male character. And he seems to be like a traditional, like, you know, accountant type character, right? A banker or something like that, some sort of traditional high-paying job kind of character, right? And so this cast has a lot of interesting characters, and it has a lot of interesting ways in which the characters can interact with each other that feels pretty awesome. I'm most interested in Francine and Kachu. I wonder if their relationship goes anywhere, or if they just stay as perpetual best friends for the rest of their lives. David definitely wants to be with Kachu, but I don't think it's possible because Kachu is very much in love with Francine. But he seems to be relevant to the rest of the story, so we'll see how that goes. And Freddy, I assume is gonna be sort of an antagonist character going forward, or he might just disappear after this. I'm not really sure. In terms of artwork and fan service, the artwork is great. I love it. The lines are so clean. The inking is done perfectly. It's very beautiful in black and white, and it's very natural. It has a very beautiful kind of like appreciation for the human form without necessarily being too egregious, right? It doesn't really devolve into like gratuitous erotic scenes, but there are moments where the art is very sensual and beautiful looking, and I love it. I think it looks great. I really, really enjoy this. Overall, super, super good. And of course, there are adult kind of scenes, although they're mostly implied. It doesn't really devolve into like being like a porn comic or anything like that. But it definitely like touches on the fact that there is sexuality. Characters are having sex, and they are doing it relatively commonly. So this is really not for children at all. Maybe for older teenagers, but not for younger ones. In terms of rating, it's a 4.5 out of 5. Like I said, it's nearly perfect, but I feel like the opening is a bit unneeded, and the background for Kachu is explained kind of poorly in my opinion, and kind of comes out of nowhere, and that's really the only real issue that I have here. So those are my thoughts on Strangers in Paradise Volume 1. I hope to read more of this soon, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. So see you guys later.